Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. In today's video I want to talk about the team news and answers given by Erik ten Hag in the press conference before the game against Omonia in the Europa League on Thursday. The main points that we've seen are that Raphael Varane is injured but should be back pretty soon. He will not be available. The only two healthy center backs training and traveling with the club right now in terms of senior center backs are Lisandro Martinez and Victor Lindelof, so they're obviously pretty much set to start. Donny van de Beek is still not fit, and Wan-Bissaka is still not fit as well, with no real word on when they expect to be healthy overall. The traveling team right now is De Gea, Heat, and Dubravka. Dubravka coming with this time. Will he play? Probably not yet, but he's there. Lindelof, Martinez, Dalot, Malaysia, Shaw, midfielders Casemiro, McTominay, Eriksen, Fred, Iqbal, and Bruno. Forwards Anthony Pellistri, who played with the under-21s, as well as Garnacho, who played with the under-21s and has joined up with the team. Both did very well for the under-21s, and I would really like to look. This is if there's ever a game for them to get in some minutes, it would be this one. Pellistri continues to impress every time he plays. When he drops down to the younger level, it's obvious he's too good for it. So you'd hope at some point soon he can get some time. Elanga, Rashford, Sancho, Martial, and Ronaldo. So pretty much a healthy team outside of the center backs at this point in time. Pretty much everybody available, and obviously the center backs is a big kind of loss there, not having Raphael Varane available. But Victor Lindelof and Lisandro Martinez make a good partnership. They're two probably of the best center backs we have in progressions on ball, and that is, really what leads me to the next point that I want to talk about once again in terms of changes. I've been told to expect some significant changes from the starting lineups in the last few games, and that it would be closer to the lineup that played and ended the game versus Manchester City. And that is necessary, that is needed. I think that it is something that has to happen here because, again, United have to change the style of play from what's been happening to a kind of a different style overall. And there's a good thread that I tweeted from United Arena that I'll come back to in the next segment. But changes are necessary. Changes are necessary in the team in order to improve things. The way that United have been playing is not sustainable. Again, I want to show this. This is not sustainable. Receiving the most threat, lowest touches, creating the least, defensive actions in the final third being the least. All of this being so low, this is not the way that Erik ten Hag wants to play. I think it's been acknowledged more and more. He was saying that, with the questions, I like Erik ten Hag's answers when he talks about things because I don't think you have to give the media any ammo against you. And when they continue to ask about Casemiro, which we'll have a question on, he'll make answers that don't truly make any sense, but it doesn't matter. He shouldn't really be giving them anything they can use against him, overall. But the changes are key. We can see that Erik ten Hag bringing in, Antony, for example, a player who fits a more possession-based attacking style. You can see the impact he can already have once you have the ball. The second half against City was much better. You could see the changes made an impact in the ability to progress, but also the creativity in the final third, the middle third, and a bit of calmness. These changes are needed, and overall the change comes down to and is a discussion about defending. How much defending is actually necessary? And this is where it comes back to this point, and I want to read from this thread a little bit what it says because it mirrored what I talked about in the video yesterday. It says this is from United Arena. You can find it on Twitter. I retweeted it out. It says in 215 games with Ajax, Erik ten Hag only coached 9 games with under 45% possession. His record was 4-3-2, and Ajax often defended detrimentally in them. He's already had 4 games and 9 with us in those conditions. 4% with Ajax, 44% with us. Obviously, it's a different league. That's one of the downsides of Ajax of playing in the Dutch league, coaching in the Dutch league versus the Premier League or a big league, is that you're likely to dominate games a lot easier. So that is true. It says in those Ajax games, they conceded on average 21 box entries, which is a large amount. and many of those games were getting close to 30. We conceded 30 versus Liverpool, 25 versus Arsenal, 24 versus Manchester City. This is true. The signs of bad team defense were there despite winning, and that's why I think this is a good thread. Here it says, it's understandable that Eric wants to reset this team, building a good defense first, but a good defense isn't known by goals conceded, but rather by progression denied. If you stop them from getting clean looks and box entries, you've done your job. We haven't. We were torn apart by individuals in Manchester City, where in prior games it was individual defense that would stop the Liverpool and Arsenal in the final third rather than an overall team setup. And I actually think that, again, this isn't a criticism of Eric because I think he strongly recognized this. One of his main comments in the post-match press conference, the post-match discussion or interview for Manchester City was that we did not defend on the front foot, and that's exactly the point there. You don't want to let them into the box and then be breaking up play and then be individually stopping shots and blocking an interception and making saves off the line. You want to be proactively defending as a team, as a unit, to prevent those chances in the first place, pressing from the front, counter-pressing, controlling the game. There's a limitation to how much defending you need, and that's the main point I'm trying to get to. It's sort of like if you pick defensive players, you're going to end up defending more. If you pick players who are progressive, it forces you to implement a style that defends higher, and I think that is where things have to go. And obviously the games upcoming are perfect examples and perfect opportunities to do this, to not defend with individuality, but defend with possession, defend with territory, defend with counter-pressing, defend higher up the pitch. And of course, I think that's the main change, is moving from a defend-first team forward into the possession-first kind of setup. And so I put this up as the expected to 11. I think it's going to be very similar to this. The question marks, obviously Varane isn't injured, but the two main question marks are Bruno and Sancho. Will we try to go with Bruno and Eriksen with Casemiro in the middle to really control the game? We probably could do it versus Omonia. Will we start Rashford on the left for a bit more energy than Sancho's been showing recently, and interplays with Shaw, or will Sancho come in there? So the big questions are Rashford and Fred, I think, in this team, but otherwise I feel it picks itself. This is how you have to play if you're going to play progressive football up higher up the pitch. It's got to be done this way. It's got to move this way. This is what is most likely now. And this team right here I put up is basically what finished the City game, which is why I selected it. And from what I've heard, it's likely that there will be pretty big changes to the starting lineups from what started on those winning games. And that this is now providing an opportunity to move forward with a more progressive style. Erik ten Hag did a lot of work with the forwards over the break, and I think he'll be frustrated that the team he selected behind the forwards was not able to get the ball to them in a lot of positions. I think Sancho, perhaps, to give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt, perhaps Sancho was overthinking it a bit in the game versus City with missing his passes and things, with trying to learn something new in what Erik ten Hag was working with them on over the break. But Martial back in the team provides the perfect opportunity to make some changes there. Moving on from that, it obviously leaves us with one more thing that has to do with Erik ten Hag's style, and something that will prevent United from moving forward with his style in a more direct manner and to a more modern possession-based style and a higher line, which is the goalkeeper. It is an obvious flaw right now. It is something. Having to go long with David De Gea, lose the ball regularly, is a weakness in the team that we do not have an answer for right now. Going long, and this is where I would argue that Erik ten Hag's answers don't make any sense. He said, for example, McTominay didn't start Brentford and we lost, but he started Brighton and we did lose too, and he was actually at fault for a little bit of that as well. So it didn't really make sense as an answer, but also the difference is what changed after Brentford. Brentford, we conceded goals playing out the back from David De Gea. It had nothing to do with McTominay. A couple of the passes were to Eriksen, some to Dalot. It actually had nothing to do with everybody else. It was playing out the back. Starting the game after that, he started going long from the goalkeeper instead of playing out the back from the goalkeeper as much. And immediately, of course, it put us under less pressure passing out the back, just with the distribution being poor and weak. But from what I've been told, and I have new information on this, As an update, the goalkeeper situation is as follows. They are planning to make a change next year. Right now, the plan is to sell Dean Henderson and not give David De Gea a new contract. Maybe that means extending it by 1 year and then letting him walk for free. Maybe it means not extending it and letting him walk entirely. They would consider a cut price deal, but they have a number one target at goalkeeper, which is Diogo Costa from Porto in Portugal. They have scouted him extensively. He is the number one target. He is the main choice at goalkeeper. He is who they'd want to bring in. And I think that gives you an example and an idea of exactly what Erik ten Hag would want from a goalkeeper. He's very aggressive, very proactive goalkeeping. And 23 years old, has a £51 million release clause, probably about the going rate for a goalkeeper. So the consideration comes down to money. If they can sell Dean Henderson, which is at the moment likely the plan, and if they can get David De Gea off the books, it would represent a savings of, well, from David De Gea's wages alone, it would represent a savings of nearly 20 million a year. Dean Henderson sold for 15-20 million, and his wages would represent another savings of 5 to 7 million a year, plus maybe 10-15 million in cash coming in. So this would actually, the 25 million in savings alone off wages allows you to make a purchase like 51 million, where amortized over 5 years, that's only 10 million a year plus wages. It actually comes out to being on the books the same price as you would have for David De Gea. As paying David De Gea's wages is actually the same price for the purchase, and the wages would be about the exact same. So it would be something that United could afford, given that they were able to let David De Gea go or significantly cut wages while also selling Dean Henderson and letting probably Dubravka and Tom Heaton go. So we'll see where they go in that regard with David De Gea, if he's willing and open to it. But Diogo Costa is the main target at goalkeeper. A change is wanted. Tells you what Erik ten Hag is thinking on the goalkeeper situation. So keep an eye on that. It's early doors, but it has been made clear from what I understand that that is the preferred target for Manchester United, and he's been scouted extensively in recent times. So that's what we've got on goalkeeper. In terms of Ronaldo's, obviously Erik ten Hag acknowledged that Ronaldo is unhappy, that he doesn't want to, that he is unhappy with not playing much, and it's understood. And there's been some comments after the City game. There's comments from Roy Keane, others, that the club has done nothing but disrespect him. And here's the thing: there's truth to that, but I think it's clear that making the distinction, if someone like Roy Keane is commenting the club disrespected him versus Erik ten Hag. I don't think he said Erik ten Hag. And I think that's fair because, as I said, his departure was being blocked by Joel Glazer when Erik ten Hag didn't want to utilize Ronaldo in his team anymore and did not see him as the main name for his team once Martial decided to stay and happily worked things out. So in that regards, yes, it was wrong. They should have worked to move Ronaldo on when Erik ten Hag didn't want him. And in that respect, the club have treated him unfairly. And I've had a disagreement with that. It's not a disagreement with Ronaldo. I've tried to make that clear all along. If he wants to leave, it's okay with me. He should go. Same in January. If he wants to leave, they should do what they can to let him go. I never actually have a problem with that if you can move him on. The biggest thing I've had an issue with is the club holding on to players who don't want to be there. Same with Pogba, same with other players in the past. It's not right to hold on to players who don't want to be there, especially when the decision is coming from over the manager's head. So in that regard, I do think he has a right to be unhappy. I do think he's been disrespected, but not by Erik ten Hag, by Joel Glazer. The manager has to pick his team the way he wants to pick regardless. And in that regard, the club have dealt with it very, very poorly. And I think that can all be agreed. So give me your thoughts, in the comments on the goalkeeper situation. Do you think that that's the right name? Do you think that's where we're, something that needs to be resolved? How would you like to see the team set up? Give me your 11s in the comments for the Omonia game. Likely should be similar to the team that plays versus Everton. And let me know what you think there. Okay, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. See you in the next video.